Hi, and welcome to another episode of Boozing with Boomers. I'm Dave, and I've been on a quest to learn how to make a great balanced cocktail. So please hit the subscribe button so we can go on this journey together. Today we are going to make the Sazerac, which is the signature cocktail of New Orleans, but also considered the first American cocktail. According to several sources, the name of this cocktail most likely came from the original base liquor, which was the French brandy Sazerac-de-Forge. The history of the recipe is a little more muddled, but here is what I've been able to piece together. Is the drink dates back to the 1830s for sure, because that's around the time when Antoine Peychaud, who was a New Orleans apothecary, invented Peychaud's bitters that he added to his cognac potions that he served at his pharmacy. About 20 years later, a cocktail called the Sazerac was being served at the Sazerac Coffee House, using cognac as the base spirit. So these stories seem to line up. And also around that same time, Antoine Peychaud was advertising that his bitters were being used in some of the best coffee houses in New Orleans. And at the time, a coffee house was really a bar. Unfortunately, starting around 1860, there was an epidemic caused by a microscopic aphid called the phylloxera that eats the roots of grapes, and it almost completely wiped out the European vineyards, including the vineyards that they made cognac and French brandy. Luckily, they did stop it in time so we can enjoy French brandy or cognac when it's made in the cognac region, and French wine. But unfortunately, at that time, they stopped exporting. They didn't have any to export to the United States. So they started to use rye whiskey, the famous, which at the time actually became a very popular whiskey, was the rye whiskeys in the United States. And that became the base liquor. But they also added a little bit of absinthe to the recipe, which is the base recipe that we all draw from today. Now, when I did my research to find a good Sazerac recipe for this episode, I found too many, some using brandy, some using rye, some using Armagnac, all of which I will try eventually. But I really wanted to use the recipe that that it became famous in the United States, using the American rye whiskey, because Sazerac Rye was made with the intent of making the Sazerac cocktail. So I wanted to be able to use that for this episode today. So I'm going to use rye whiskey. And also, this recipe using rye whiskey is made at the Sazerac House in New Orleans, which was built in 2019, kind of to honor the original Sazerac Coffee House and the Sazerac cocktail. So I thought they probably know a little thing or two about making great balanced cocktails. So I'm going to use their recipe today for our cocktail. So let's get started. Now, this is where it always gets tricky for me, because they ask to take absinthe, pour a little bit in a chilled rocks glass, rinse it around the glass, and then dump it in the sink and put it aside. But I don't like to waste any of my liquor. So what I did is I got a spray bottle. That's kind of like an atomizer in this case. And all you're really trying to do is get the absinthe to coat the glass so that the essences and the smells of the absinthe are part of the cocktail, but do not overpower the cocktail. So I will just spray this a couple times. That's a very nice smell. And the other fun thing about having this in a spray bottle, if you really like the flavors or smells of absinthe, there's no reason you can't make this cocktail and maybe spray a little bit on top so you get a little more of that kick. The other trick with this cocktail, because I want to make it exactly like they make it in New Orleans, is muddling a sugar cube. So another way to look at this cocktail is this really is a New Orleans old-fashioned using Peychaud's bitters. And we're going to add 3 bitters to the sugar cube to give it some moisture to be able to crush it. And I always struggle with this. But what you're really trying to do is make a paste. Right, so you're trying to get it to its granular form, and it will not oversweeten the drink at all. But one trick I did learn is before you add the ice, I actually stir it a little bit, because the whiskey is warmish, it's room temperature, and it will actually dissolve the sugar better than if I immediately threw ice in the drink, which would chill it down and make it more difficult to dissolve. So I'll stir it a little bit. You don't need to completely dissolve it, but I found this makes a better cocktail because you will get most, if not all, of the sugar dissolved before you put the ice in it. And then, as we've learned, I drop ice a lot, but as we've learned, Make sure to put more than enough ice in, because you are, at the same time you are chilling this cocktail, you are also diluting it. So the more ice really chills ice so you don't over dilute the cocktail. And we're going to stir this for 30 seconds. So I'll be right back. Okay, and also don't worry too much. When I first made this, I was making sure the sugar was completely dissolved, and I wouldn't worry about it too much, because even if a little bit of the granules get into your cocktail, it's not going to hurt the drink. It's another reason I happen to like simple syrup, because with simple syrup, you not only can gauge your sweetness more accurately, but also it's already fully dissolved. But I wanted to make this cocktail exactly how they make it in New Orleans, which teaches me another skill set as well. So we've got our rye in there. We've got the absinthe around the glass. And we're ready to drink it, except I almost forgot the garnish. So then they recommend a large peel that we're just going to spritz the oils over top. And then I don't do this as well as they do, but there's a way to kind of twist it and hang it on the glass. So this is where I'm showing my amateurness here. But I got the oils in, I can smell the lemon, I can smell the absinthe. So let's see how I did. I never thought I would need two hands for a rocks glass. So what surprises me about this, it's 1.5 ounces of rye whiskey with a sugar cube. I expected it to be sweet. It's like when I made the old fashioned. I don't know why I thought 1 sugar cube would be that sweet, and it's not. So this is a very whiskey forward drink. The aromas coming from the absinthe kind of give it another level of flavor, because obviously as you're smelling the absinthe, it is affecting the flavor of this drink. This is a great warming cocktail for as it gets colder in this time of year. And it's just another celebration of New Orleans. So I'm learning that I kind of like these New Orleans drinks. So I hope you liked today's episode. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe so we can go on this journey with Boozing with Boomers together. Thank you, and cheers.